You're listening to Panthers on Tap. I'm Curtis Rauen, joined by Bryson Karbley. We're just two fans sharing our love for the game in Carolina Panthers football. So join us, crack open a cold one, some bubbly, a little wine, some scotch. We don't care, whatever makes you sleep better at night. Before we dive into the episode, a little self-promotion. Stop what you're doing. Go give us a follow on Twitter at Panthers on Tap. Join the discussion on our Facebook group. We have over 2,500 members. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Panthers on Tap. Same shit, different coach. Panthers fall yet again, this time to a divisional rival in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're joining you guys on this Tuesday evening. Still with you all, trying to break down and dissect what's going on with Carolina as they try to claw their way out of getting another victory. Bryson, how are you?
Same old, unfortunately, in regards to a Panthers win. It feels like a broken record every week we get on here, and it's, depressing, a depressing mood, I guess. And personally, I'm all right. I try to separate my personal life from this team, because if I don't, then I'm going to be very sad all the time. So personally, I'm all right, but, sports team-wise, I'm struggling.
You do anything fun this weekend?
No, just watch college football, and then Sunday spend some time with family and watch the Panthers game. Not anything crazy. How about you?
Yeah, I wanted to start off. Well, we don't do this often, but everyone's been talking about it. Florida State went to the game this weekend. I'm sure if you guys follow us on Twitter, you saw. Not gonna lie, I really liked where we were sitting. We were in the 500s, 535. Row 5, actually. Man, I really want to change our seats. Like that area. I mean, it was a little bit farther back. We were kind of more in the end zone corner of the stadium, but I really like those seats. They were, and being that low, it might not seem like a big difference between what we're in 518 to 50. 18 rows up compared to 5, but it's a big difference walking up those steps. So yeah. That was just general observation. But yeah, I went to the game. Man, I thought I was at another Panthers game. No offense, low scoring, a punt fest. Like, I came away from that game and I was talking to a guy there who's a diehard Florida State fan. And I mean, he even admitted, he's like, we do not deserve to be in the playoff whatsoever. Like, we would get our asses kicked against any other team. So I just wanted to get your take on it. Where are you? Should Florida State be in the playoff right now?
No, the committee made the right decision. I think Florida State had a good season, and obviously if their quarterback was healthy, it would be a different story. But part of the criteria that the College Football Playoff Committee looks at was, the health of the team. It's part of the criteria, and whoever were to play Florida State in the first round would have been Michigan. I mean, that's a first round bye. They put up 10 points versus Louisville. Their defense is really good. I mean, they were essentially playing Iowa football. Iowa, no offense, all defense. And that's what Florida State was at this point. It's unfortunate because they are a Power 5 conference, undefeated conference champion. But you have to take all things into consideration. And Alabama's better than Florida State right now. I don't think that anybody's going to argue that they're not. You could even argue Georgia and probably Ohio State were better than Florida State. So I think the committee made the right decision. This is the last year that they have the 4 playoff teams. So they did set a precedent with not putting a Power 5 conference champion, undefeated conference champion in the playoff. But next year it goes to 12, and they really don't have to worry about that precedent that they set with this decision. So I'm glad. I'm excited to watch those games. They're all going to be great. I'm pulling for Michigan because I really like their head coach. And how did you feel about the decision?
I thought they made the right call. I don't envy the committee whatsoever. I would have not wanted to make that decision because they were going to be pissing off really 2 fan bases in obviously Georgia and then Florida State. I think Georgia, saw it coming, but for Florida State, just a brutal decision, but I think it was the right one. It's kind of weird because I've flip-flopped on this before. I remember back in, I think it was 2010 when Andy Dalton was with TCU. They went undefeated, didn't make it, and I was pissed. Like, I wanted that team to make it. I think at that point it was the the BCS championship. So it was different circumstances. But I was I remember when I was younger, I was pissed that they didn't. And I kind of see it's just strength of schedule. And obviously there's different circumstances here with Florida State with Jordan Travis going down and out for the year. That was kind of somewhat of a similar situation here. Obviously Florida State won their title game. First Power 5 team not to make it. But again, I think that was the big sticking point was this team was different without Travis. I think if Travis was in there, I don't think there's a doubt that they'd be in this game. But, I mean, do you play him against, I think it was Northern Alabama. It was some smaller school that he got injured in that game. Do you even play him in that game? Like, you go back, all these things you can look at. But, yeah, I thought they made the right call. I think it's going to be some hell of a games, come in a couple of weeks here. So
an interesting point that I heard was if Florida State wasn't so honest about Jordan Travis's injury and they said he has a chance to come back this year, how would that have changed the committee's decision?
I have not heard that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, if they were to lie and say, hey, he's got a chance to come back for this playoff game, I think the committee would have put him in if that were the case. But, they were truthful, and unfortunately, Jordan Travis broke his leg at a bad point in the season. They would have done it earlier on and proven that they could beat teams and score, then maybe they still get in. But, them only beating Louisville by 4 points, who played awful. God, that quarterback for Louisville so bad. Plummer. Plummer was his name.
Is that relation to Jake Plummer?
I think so.
Okay, I thought so too, but
I think so. And it was just. I think if Florida State would have beat Louisville by 20 or 30 in that game, then I think they still get in because they showed that they could score. I mean, it was their third string quarterback. Even the backup was hurt, and it's just they didn't have the offense. And when it comes down to it, they want to consider everything, including who's going to watch the game and how many people are going to watch the game. So if you got Michigan State versus Florida State, when everybody knows Michigan's going to win, not Michigan State, the ratings aren't going to be as good as Michigan versus Alabama. I mean, let's just be honest. So I'm sure that went into the consideration. Did you see that picture of Kirk Herbstreit with the 4 helmets in the background or surrounding him before they announced the 4 teams?
No, I missed that.
So he had.
I totally missed that.
He had Florida State in it prior to the quarterback injury. The 4 helmets around him. It was Florida State, Michigan, Texas, and the third team, Washington. Yeah. But during the playoff selection, before it was announced, he had the four teams that were announced in surrounding.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah, it was interesting. It could have been a coincidence, but I think also they knew by that time.
Yeah,
who it was going to be.
Well, enough about that. Let's get into Panthers game this weekend. Went down to Tampa Bay. They have fallen now to 1-11 on the season. Yep. So let's break it down here. What did you see differently from this team offensively, really? Now, Thomas Brown regaining over as offensive coordinator and the play caller, and obviously Frank Reich not there any longer. What did you see offensively from them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Chuba Hubbard's probably the biggest bright spot in that game. He was like only the third rusher this year to rush for 100 yards versus that Bucs defense. Now you can say that it was because they were missing their 2 best linebackers that are really good run defenders, but Chuba had a great game. I think he had like 76 yards after contact. He is, I mean, I've gone on record before. I was completely wrong about Chuba Hubbard. The growth that he's shown this year, it's been spectacular. I don't ever worry about him dropping the ball anymore. Can't remember the last time he dropped a pass. His pass pro has been really good. He's been decisive in running. He still doesn't have that top end speed that, he's going to break a 60-yard run for a touchdown or anything like that. But I feel like every time he carries the ball, he's good for at least 3-4 yards at a minimum. So in this game, I thought he played really well. Jonathan Mingo stood out. I think he went for 69 yards. Jonathan Mingo seems like he's coming on a little bit. That one catch where his elbows hit the ground going out of bounds, that was a catch. I don't care what anyone says. That was a catch, and it should have been called a catch, but it wasn't. I thought he had a really good game. Shark, of course, had a pretty good game. Offensive line was the offensive line. I mean, I really didn't see a whole lot of improvement. Nash Jensen is a bright spot, though. It seems like he's really kind of coming into his own and being at least better than what we've had at the right guard position.
And I got the grades on them. I can pull that up here shortly. But
yeah, at the guard position. So I'll save that for that talk. But Bryce Young, thought he played well, considering the situation. I just get frustrated with all the takes I see online. Yes, he hasn't had a great season. He's got 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I think he's right under 2,000 yards passing or something. I don't know the exact number total, but you have to take the totality of the circumstances into consideration when basing, an opinion off Bryce Young in his first year. Bryce Young made some really good passes on Sunday, considering he was under pressure most of the time. Bryce Young's been sacked 43 times, 44 times through his first 11 games. Every week when we come on here, you add 4 or 5 more sacks to that total because that's what the offensive line gives up every week almost. So there could have been a couple, he missed 1 or 2 passes. The interception wasn't really, he was just trying to make a play. It was 4th down, trying to make a play. I really didn't like the play calling, though, on that 3rd and short and 4th and short when they went play action and pass on those. We just talked about Chuba getting 3 or 4 or 5 yards of carry, and they turn away from him on that last drive to get the first down on short yard situation. So Bryce Young still have all the confidence in him in the world. I think this offseason, when we hopefully get a new GM, bring a different talent at the wide receiver group, I think that he's gonna take off next year and hopefully be in a better offensive system. But we all saw the play where it was 3rd and 11, and they had 3 wide receivers running curls, or 4 wide receivers running curls, and he threw the ball to Stephon Sullivan, which was actually a very good pass. It was his 4th read in that progression, and he threw it under pressure. The pass was on target. Sullivan could have caught it, but he didn't. And what kind of scheme is that? 4 curls, it's like elementary stuff. We say it every week. I feel so bad for Bryce because the offensive system has no creativity. Another thing I wanted to mention before I forget, I did like that they were using ISM more in motion. They included him a lot more. You can just tell by his motions, he's faster than Mingo.
He played a lot more too offensively.
Yeah, and I love that because I think he's electric. And I think there were some positives, baby steps in this game in regards to the offense showing a little bit more. But ultimately, when you get down to the nitty gritty here, it's the same offensive scheme that Frank Reich installed this offseason. Thomas Brown's just trying to operate in it the best that he can. And with the offensive line that he has and the weapons that he has, it's tough. It's probably going to be a lot of the same throughout the rest of the year. And we just hope for the best. And really, like we say every week, every game we get out of that Bryce Young's healthy, I think is the biggest win we can hope for right now.
Yeah, I was trying to find the numbers on Smith Marset of how many snaps he played. So he's played 17% on offense. I don't know what it was the week prior, but it definitely was more.
Yeah.
Strachan, however hell you want to pronounce his name, he had more snaps than Chark, but I don't even think he got a target in this game. So I thought that was a little odd. I thought maybe they'd get him going. But Bryce Young sacked 4 times again. I think he was hit 4 times. I do think the offensive line, it was not very much, but I thought they played a little bit better in pass protection. And I thought so. I can't remember I saw this or who tweeted this out. Might have been Rocket on Twitter, but it feels like the offensive line, when they get things going, running the ball, blocking wise, it kind of sets up their pass blocking a little bit. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The Bucks blitz 65% on Bryce Young's dropbacks. And then we saw some more deep shots. I think it was 4 pass attempts past 20 yards. He connected, I think, on 1 or 2 of them. So that was improvement. I thought they used motion a little bit more in this one. I don't remember what quarter it was, but I think it was, I want to say it was the second quarter. It might have been the tail end of the first, but there was a really nice drive in there. It's the one where they scored the field goal on. I personally liked that drive. But then and this happens every game. They have that like one drive that's really good, and then you never see them go back to the stuff that worked in that drive. So I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is for that. But you mentioned, I thought the run game was outstanding. Obviously, Chuba, 100 yards. I think that he's the first. This is the first 100 yards by a back this season, isn't it? So he played really well. I thought the offensive line blocked well in the run game. There's obviously improvement there. I thought McCray struggled at times. He had a couple penalties that were pretty costly. One on a play, I think it was a pretty big gain. I don't know if it was a run or a pass from Bryce, but there was a holding call on McCray and it went back, and that was killer. So those things are still happening. Panthers are still shooting themselves in the foot on offense when it comes to that. And it just sucks. Very short-lived lead. It was third quarter. They had the lead for 10 seconds. Like just brutal. I mean,
Panthers football.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that literally sums up how this season has went for them. And I remember I pointed out a couple of weeks ago is Panthers rarely have a time where the offense has a really good drive and puts up a touchdown, and then the defense holds.
Yeah.
It's either one or the other, and they can never get that consistently. So that was frustrating. But let me just pull up those the offensive line numbers here quickly.
And you touched on it a little bit, but that first drive, Bryce Young was under center quite a bit, and it was working. The play action was working from under center.
Under center has worked most of the time he's been in it. I don't get why they're not doing it more.
Yeah, and the first drive, they did it, and then they went away from it for the rest of the game almost. It was so frustrating because we saw the success with it. They had a really good drive, and then, it just kind of fell off.
So, yeah, here's the numbers. It's weird because they gave up 4 sacks, but PFF doesn't give any of the linemen a sack. So, again, not sure if they're calling these coverage sacks, what they're going with here, or if they're calling it on because they did blitz a lot. So I don't know if they're calling it. They sometimes will put it on like the running back or a wide receiver or a tight end who's supposed to be blocking. But yeah, across the board, I thought I still think their struggle. I mean, I'm not a big fan of McCray. I mean, I know he blocked. He's a big guy in the middle there for them, but he is not good in pass protection at all. And they did sign him to the active roster today, so that's something to watch. Nash Jensen, I know he's had some, there's things he's done, all right here and there, but I thought he had a terrible game. And Moten, the guy has been the rock of this offensive line, and he needs more credit from fans because I don't think he gets it enough. I think I remember before the season were dogging him, and I mean, it's nowhere near that right now. I mean, he's just been rock solid for them all year long.
Yeah, and I think it was Bozeman's best game of the year. I think Bozeman, I mean, just look at that. 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries, 0 pressures, and he had a 73 pass blocking grade. So, I think, and he was playing Vita Vea, and there were some clips online of him bullying Vita Vea, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. So, but that was a really good game from Bozeman. We just hope that he can put, more than one good game in a row together. So Bozeman did really good. Ekwonu was okay. You kind of hope for more than from a top 10 offensive tackle in the NFL draft. But, I think all year it's been the same story. The guards have struggled most of the time, and it just leads to way too much interior pressure, which is the worst kind of pressure for a quarterback to have. And Bryce does what he can with that.
Yeah, and let me pull it. Sorry, I was fucking around with this graphic here. Yeah, I thought Bozeman did well in the run game. I still thought there was some struggles there. I don't think it's still been that game where you're like, damn, okay, he's back where he should be. But I definitely think across the board, the O-line did well blocking in the run game, and that really helped, I think, if you want to say that, because the offense still struggled. It still looked like the shitty offense just can't move the ball. But it goes to show when you don't have weapons, which Bryce Young does not have, it's hard to do anything. It really is. And you hate it for the guy, and it sucks, but that's just where they're at with this season. I wanted to point this out. I put this out on Twitter. Over the last 2 games, everyone's been giving Mingo shit, but 10 receptions, 129 yards. Chark has got 6 reception, 90 yards, and then Adam Thielen, who really was obviously the top wideout for the first 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks of the season, 4 receptions, 27 yards. And I know that has a lot to do with what teams are doing defensively. They're doubling Adam Thielen because why not? I mean, that's the only guy Bryce is ever throwing to. Yeah. But Mingo has, made some plays. We haven't even mentioned it. I'm sure you agree with me. I thought that was a catch on the first drive where he dove. I thought it was inbounds. I don't know where they saw the ball moving. I didn't see that, but I definitely thought that was a catch.
Yeah. I mentioned it to start the show, but it was definitely a catch. Both elbows were down. He had the ball. It was possessed. He completed the catch. I didn't think there was any evidence that he didn't complete the catch, but I think they just stuck with the call on the field, unfortunately. Sometimes they just do that when they're scared to change it or just really don't know. So, yeah, I thought it was definitely a catch, and that's what I tweeted at the time. It's frustrating because that was a hell of a pass from Bryce. And then there was another out route that he threw that was a perfect pass, but it was dropped. I can't remember the receiver that dropped it. I think it was actually, however the fuck you say his name, Strachan. I think it was him that dropped it. The out route towards the out of bounds where Bryce threw it, and he was under pressure when he threw it, but it was a dot, and he just dropped it going out of bounds.
Yeah, the Chark play too, the deep one he had to Chark, that was he probably he should have put it over the top. Mm-hmm. He threw it a little under, but he placed it where Chark could only get it. I mean, that was a perfect placed ball.
Yeah.
In regards to that, but yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people, I keep seeing that play online where I think it was Mingo running up the middle on the 4. I think it was a 4 wide receiver set. I can't remember when it was in the game, and people are saying he probably should have hit him deep. I thought he could have taken the shot there.
Yeah.
He also, it looked like he had Chuba underneath from the video. And I'm not here sitting here thinking I'm an expert. That's why I don't post half those videos, because half of us don't know what are the reads or whatever. It's basically a guessing game for anyone looking at it that's not in that room. So, but yeah, I thought Bryce maybe had an opportunity there, but overall, I think he made plays. Was I pissed about the pick in the fourth quarter? And we'll talk about this series here now that you mentioned it earlier. Was I upset about it? Yeah, but I looked at it and I was like, it's really a glorified punt, really, because you still had 3 timeouts. If they stopped them defensively again, Carolina would have gotten the ball back and tried to at least tie the game with a field goal. But let's talk about the last series. So we had Panthers get the ball back, like 2:30 left. They're down by 3. So they it was a 5-yard run to Chuba and then a 4-yard run to Chuba. So you had 3rd and 1. They pass it incomplete. They come back, 4th and 1. They pass again. Bryce tries to force it to Adam Thielen, and obviously it's intercepted. You mentioned it. I definitely think they should have ran the ball. I know I'm sure you saw the Thomas Davis stuff online where he said they were blitzing a lot on 3rd down, and Carolina tried to go with something different and run a play action, because I want to say on 3rd and 1, they were under center. I think Bryce was under center for that. And they ran a play action. And then obviously I don't remember. Do you remember who he threw to on 3rd and 1? Did he just like throw it into the ground or something?
I can't remember exactly.
I can't either. But yeah, I wish they would have just lined up and tried to just pound it with Chuba. He was having a hell of a game. I mean, I almost thought they should have probably brought in and they've done. And I want to say they ran a play like this during the game. Maybe this was a different game, but Cade Mays, I would have almost brought him in as like a 6th lineman and powered it and seen, can you beat the guy across from you? Because Cade Mays did that last year as like almost a fullback role, and I thought they did that during one of the touchdowns. They brought him in, but anyway, I thought they were. I thought the run They should have done the run play on the 3rd and 1. But again, would I have been pissed if they would have ran it 3rd and 1 and then ran it again on 4th and 1 and not gotten it? I'm sure we would all be bitching right now too. So
yeah.
But yeah, that one just sucked because I thought Chuba could have gotten it. I really did.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said earlier, yeah, I think you at least got to try to run once in that situation. 3rd and 1, you don't get it, then maybe you go for the pass on 4th. I don't know where you go for the pass on 3rd like they did and then run it on 4th. Just give Chuba a chance because it felt like every time he had the ball, he was getting 3, 4, 5 yards of carry. So your offensive line was winning most of the time, and you only needed a yard. So I think going pass on both, it was just they were trying to do too much. And when you're 1-10, you just need to take what's working, and they went away from it. And obviously, it led to Bryce just trying to make a play. I mean, what else are you going to do? It's 4th down. He's just going to take a sack. No, at least throw it up and give someone a chance to get it. So, Adam Thielen did come open on that a little bit, and then
initially, yeah.
And then Bryce did point and tell him to go deep, and he did, but the safety just came over, made a good play, and essentially ended the game. Well, I guess the defense could have got a stop, but they didn't, and that interception ended the game. So, not what you want in that situation, but
there was some. I mean, again, this is just me, my channeling my Madden here, and just thinking of this roster a little bit. I wonder. I mean, if you're worried about the inside run there on 3rd and 1, I think what would be nice to see, and I think maybe they'd run this if LaVisca was healthy, but I also think Blackshear could play this role too, is you bring in Chuba, in the backfield and split out Blackshear wide and run him on a motion and direct hand, almost like not a reverse, but just like a jet sweep, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Bryce handed off to him, Chuba runs up, and you got Blackshear running outside and see if you can hit it outside if they were worried about that. I don't know. I just feel like Blackshear is underutilized, and I think he can play that role and kind of mix things up and show them a different look there. Obviously, he was active this game and got kick returns, but I don't think he got any snaps in offense, did he? I don't remember entirely. I'll click just check here. He did. He got 2 plays. He got 2 plays on offense.
Oh, yeah, big time. I think that the offense could use some creativity. Like a play that sticks out to me from Panthers history when the offense was struggling mightily to score was the play that Christian McCaffrey threw a touchdown to Chris Manhertz. It was like 3rd and short, I think it was. And it was a trick play where they tossed it to Christian out on the edge, and then he threw the pass to Manhertz, scored a touchdown. And it was versus the Saints when the offense was struggling to score. Like, why not incorporate some of that stuff into this
Guys
offense?
aren't getting open.
Well, hopefully if you're running a trick play, they do. But
no, I agree. I mean, throw some sort of wrinkle in there. The other problem with the flea flicker is Carolina doesn't have time to run a fucking flea. They don't. Like, Bryce Young's getting hit in 1 to 2 seconds. So they don't even have time to even try to run something like that. Their offense line so bad. But yeah, I think there were some things I liked that Brown ran, and you could tell he was trying to implement some different things, but you can only do so much when you've already, it's Frank Reich's playbook with a little of Thomas Brown's flavor on it, and he's trying to do as much as he can to change it a tad bit so you can get some different looks. But Carolina is still running this same, for the most part, shit over. That curl thing it's so frustrating. I don't even run that shit Madden. Like, what are we doing here? Like, just terrible. And maybe I should. Maybe I'm the one that's doing it all wrong.
Nope.
Maybe that's why you're beating me. I ain't running 4 curls every goddamn play.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Let's talk about the defense here a little bit. We haven't talked about them much. Elephant in the room, Brian Burns getting ejected. That really sucked in this one. I thought YGM had a pretty good, or he had made some plays in the run game a little bit. Thought Dante Jackson played well for the most part. CJ Henderson, I don't know, he upset me on a couple plays with missed tackles. And then JC Horn. Yeah, what did you think of JC Horn? I thought that was so weird. And if he was on a pitch count, why didn't they spread it out more in the game? And not heavily put it in the first half? I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't understand it.
I get the pitch count. I shouldn't say that. I just the way they had it set up was weird.
I mean, I think if you're trying to win a game and he's healthy, on that last drive, at least you got to put him back in, right? I mean, if he's this elite corner that people say he is, I understand putting him on a pitch count, which they kept him out for pretty much the entire second half of the game. I mean, at least throw him in the last drive when you need a.
You know what I wonder, though, with his injury? I wonder if they didn't want to give him a break and bring him back in for something to flare up. So, like, play him consistent and then put him on, bench him, basically. Because if you play him, then bench him for a bit and then try to bring him back in, he might have some sort of – that's maybe – and that's probably what they were thinking. That's the only thing I can think of why they didn't try to space it out more.
Yeah,
like play them like the first and like third quarter or whatever it was, or to do it that way. Because I was like, dude, because even reporters didn't know what was going on, and they said, he is healthy, and then obviously they explained it after. But I just thought that was odd, especially late in the game. Like he could have been used against Mike Evans. So
and that's a fair point. But to start the game, he was getting picked on. Mike Evans was getting the better of J.C. Horn. And they just kept going his way, and Mike Evans kept getting it. So, obviously, there's some rust that you probably got to shake off when you're out for 10 weeks. But, hopefully next week he's on less of a pitch count. This team could really use him, obviously. We saw what happened with that Mike Evans touchdown right when the Panthers took the lead. So, it's frustrating. But, to speak on Brian Burns, unacceptable for the veteran leader of your team, pretty much the face of this team besides Bryce, to throw a punch like he did or whatever it was, a slap, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, it wasn't a punch. I mean, why did they call it that? Sorry, keep going.
I mean, he struck the player. I mean, you just can't do that. I mean, you're going to get tossed for doing something like that. And I wonder if that final drive, if Carolina could have got a stop with him on the field. He was pretty non-existent when he was playing. He wasn't really doing anything for the whole game, but he is a star player, so maybe he makes a play, to get the ball back. But I'm just frustrated because, he's a guy that's been on record. He wants a new contract, and he's not played well throughout these last couple of weeks. He's really not. He's been missing.
Tennessee had a good game, I thought.
Yeah, but, this is a player that wants to be paid like a top 5 edge in the league. You need to make a difference every game that you're in, and he just doesn't do that. But I'm not saying don't pay him. I hope that they're not in a situation where they're forced to pay him top end money, and we get the same production every year where he's good for one game, he's non-existent for 2, then he has another good game, then he's non-existent for 2. I just need that consistency, and maybe if they get another edge rusher opposite of him that's somewhat of a threat to rush the quarterback, then he does become more consistent, because he's literally the only player on this team that is consistent rushing the quarterback when he's on the field, at least getting pressures. And
got to give DB his flowers too, though. That guy consistency, that guy is
I'm going to get to him. He's crazy game, but I think Burns just, unfortunately, that was probably one of the worst games I can remember Brian Burns playing, just because of the ejection and his production up to that point.
And it's unlike him too. He's
level-headed most of the time.
Yeah. I just think the culmination of, and the guy has not been on a winning team at all since he's been in the NFL whatsoever. Just mediocre offensive play. Defense has been middle of the road. They're top 10, I guess, this year if you want to look at that statistically. But I think it's just been a boiling over, and apparently a guy said something, and I think you can fill in the blanks of what was said. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out what was said to him. And I think it was Marquise Haynes. He said someone had said something to him in the game. But you've been in the league several years. You're a star player. You just can't make that mistake. But
yeah, and then to get to Derek Brown, hell of a game. He's been consistent all year. I think he's top 5 in the league. Run stop rate. one of the top in the league pressures from defensive tackles. He is the most consistent defensive lineman. He's the best defensive lineman, in my opinion, on the team. And the team needs to prioritize his extension when it comes time, because you cannot lose Derek Brown. You cannot, under any circumstance, lose him. He is a building block on this team and will be for years to come. So really happy with him. Vote for him to go to the Pro Bowl. He tweeted it out today. Go vote, please. We've had a lot of losses this year. Let's at least have somewhat of a win and get our best player, legitimately our best player on this team, to the Pro Bowl. And I think that he deserves it. He probably gets a nice bonus as well.
I hope he gets it and he's not screwed because of how shitty the Panthers are, because he is definitely playing at the top of his position across the entire NFL. There's one thing. Oh, let's go to some reports here, and then we'll get to the preview of this week's game. And we're going to try to do this as we go forward. There's a lot out there already. We can only talk so damn much over and over about the same damn thing. But there was some very interesting reports from Dianna Russini over the weekend. And the first one was about Bryce Young. Multiple coaches, according to her, wanted Bryce Young benched after week 5. You agree or disagree with this? Would you have wanted this?
Absolutely not. You don't bench the number 1 overall pick 5 weeks into the season, even if he is struggling, which I don't think Bryce Young was struggling. I think he is a victim of his circumstances, like we've talked about. You just don't do that. Every player in the NFL will tell you the best way for a player to learn is live game reps. And, he has, I think, shown growth this year, game to game, making less mistakes. I think in this past game, there were a couple of things that he could have done better. That lateral he threw when there was nobody over there. Yeah. I don't know what the hell that play was, but that you just can't do that. And then the intentional grounding, but benching him week 5, that's going to probably ruin his confidence. The only positive that you could get from that is that at least he's not playing behind this awful offensive line and risking injury, but it's not something that you do. With the number 1 overall pick, with CJ Stroud playing as well as he is, imagine the Twitter and just sporting world, number 1 overall pick gets benched, and while number 2 is playing out of his mind. It's just, you just don't do that. And I'm glad they didn't. And I'm glad that, somebody stuck to their guns on this. It's probably Frank Reich. I don't think obviously if he supported that, I think Bryce would have been benched. So I'm glad that they haven't benched him, and they shouldn't under any circumstance bench Bryce Young at any point, unless we're 4 or 5 years down the road and he's throwing 3 interceptions a game. Like you just don't do it. You got to let him grow. You got to let him play, get those live reps, and allow him to continue to learn while on the job.
Yeah, if anything, and I just don't like the flip-flopping with this. That's why I would not like it. I think if you didn't think he was ready, Andy Dalton should have started the year off, and that's how you should have done it. Hindsight's 2020. No one, I don't think, could have predicted what happened with Carolina. So I think you just got to keep rolling with it. And I think in the long run, this will be beneficial for Bryce, and hopefully it doesn't ruin him long term.
Yeah.
From what he's dealt with, and no weapons, and a piss poor offensive line, and a coaching staff that was running plays that you saw in the 90s. So let's talk about it. Oh, go ahead.
I want to ask you something. At the trade deadline, there was a lot of speculation. Carolina was going after a wide receiver. You were not in favor of them trading assets at the time to get Bryce a weapon. I was in very much favor of it. Do you still think that was a good decision at this point to not give him someone that can consistently get separation?
Obviously not. No. I still would be hesitant to give up that second round pick, though. Yeah. Third, I feel like I'd be a little bit more willing, just seeing what has happened. But I just think that second round pick is very valuable, especially how shitty they are. It's almost like a first rounder at this point. But yeah, I think they should have went out and gotten someone. I mean, even if it wasn't, I'm trying to think of the two top guys that I'm
Jerry
blanking
Jeudy.
on. Yeah, Jeudy. Just someone put some life in this offense a little bit, because it just, I mean, even some of these tight ends that have been on waivers, it's like, I don't give a fuck what team you want to play for. If Carolina wants to claim you, go and claim them. Like, I don't. And Carolina was down tight ends this week. I don't know why they didn't try to go after Zach Ertz. They had first ops at him. Like,
yeah,
I don't get that. And maybe that's just a respect thing for GMs, but that is, I don't care what guy they left and had a mutual. They left, or he left Arizona, and like, I would have scooped his ass up and not thought twice about it. So I don't know. I don't understand that at all. But yeah, I think looking back, obviously they probably should have went out and got someone, because there's just not been much improvement with this team. But let's talk about defensively. She came out with another report. And I asked this because I'm not going to lie, I was a little pissed that none of the beat reporters asked this. They have asked this before. I think it was last year when Steve Wilkes got it. I believe they asked some other coaches if they were approached. So I thought it was the perfect time last week to ask both Thomas Brown and Evero if they were approached by David Tepper. I know everyone assumes that they probably weren't, but it's still I think it still needed to be asked, because I think that's, even if they weren't approached, that gives you some inclination where the hell Tepper's head was. So, but she claims that Ejiro Evero was never approached by David Tepper about interim head coach. I don't think he would have taken it. I think he was approached last year in Denver when they got rid of Hackett, and he said he didn't want it. So I don't blame him. But yeah, now this is out there. So are you shocked at all by this?
No, I'm not, because I think Tepper didn't want another Wilkes situation where you get a coach that is, a very good coach like Ejiro Evero is, who's done spectacular things with an injured defense all year. Maybe he does get the boys juiced and rattle off a couple wins, and then you have to consider him as a head coach. And I think Tepper wants to either keep Evero at the defensive coordinator job with the new head coach, or just, wipe the slate clean and bring in a whole entire new staff when they hire the next head coach. So I'm not surprised by this. I think Tabor was the easy decision in regards to being able to move on from him, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of, unless he came in and won every single game, to finish the year, I don't think there's going to be a lot of fans chomping at the bit to hire him. So I think that he was the easy scapegoat in this situation.
All right, let's move to this last one. It's a big one. This was the most interesting one. This got juicy here from Russini. So Tepper is going to try to lure Ben Johnson. Really no secret there. She reported that it sounds like he is ready to take a head coach job. But the big but, however, whatever way you want to put it, some in the Panthers organization have texted Johnson about how complicated it has been to work in Carolina. There's a leaker, Bryson. There's a leaker in the organization.
Are you surprised?
No, not at all. And I think we can probably all, connect the dots. Probably Deuce Staley makes the most sense. He's got the connection, playing or coaching with Ben Johnson last year in Detroit, and he's now out of a job. Sour apples there. I'm sure he's not happy about it. But I know it's reported. I'm sure this happens all the fucking time. Like, it's just not reported. It's reported because Carolina is a hot mess right now, and David Tepper is known for meddling.
Yeah.
So, or it's been reported he's meddled. So, no, I'm not surprised. I think Ben Johnson knows it at this point. And I'm not sure if it really hurts their chances at this point, because it's already well known. But again, that just might be me, because I really want Ben Johnson and I'm just naive. But I'm still hopeful that I think Tepper can find a way to get him here. But what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it either. Obviously, I think the connection that you mentioned is probably pretty accurate in regards to who texted them. But in my opinion, I think it's more likely than not that Ben Johnson does not take the Carolina Panthers job. Although he does have the connection to North Carolina. He's a Tar Heel walk-on quarterback from North Carolina, but I think he's the hottest candidate going into the next coaching cycle. There's going to be more enticing jobs with maybe the Chargers, the Bears, what have it.
Let's talk about that for a second. Who do you think is gonna have vacancies this year? Because I was trying to think about that at work today a little bit. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you said it. I think Chargers 100%. I'm not sure about the Bears. Like, I could see them holding on to Eberflus.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a possibility because they've been competitive. The Bears have, and they've won a couple of games. They beat the Panthers. So with
Washington,
Washington
will
be available, and I think that's an enticing job as well because Sam Howell, and that's a Tar Heel quarterback. So maybe that lures Ben Johnson there.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
So I don't know. I think Carolina, Jay Glazer reported on Sunday. There's a lot of people saying that this job's not going to be a hot or a job people want. Jay Glazer says that's not the case whatsoever. People are going to want this job because it's one of 32 jobs that pays a lot of money, and it's a head coach with Bryce Young, who was the number one quarterback coming into the draft and has shown flashes of his ability. I think that is going to be a job that's wanted. I just think Ben Johnson's going to have other options, and I just don't know if I think our owner hurts us in this situation with the text. I think the Chargers, nobody's texting about the Chargers owner meddling in the day-to-day football operations, and Justin Herbert is a top 5-10 quarterback in this league and has shown. I mean, I like Justin Herbert a lot. I'm a lot higher on Justin Herbert than a lot of people, and I think that he's very good. And I think if Ben Johnson gets in that situation with Herbert, I mean, the sky's the limit there with the way that Ben Johnson dials up plays. I mean, that offense could be the best in the NFL with Herbert at the helm. So I don't know. I think Ben Johnson, I think he's both of our number one candidates. I would love Ben Johnson in Carolina. I just don't think it's realistic with the other options that he's going to have going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the LA job, it's enticing. I mean, you have way more offensive pieces.
Yeah.
Obviously. But I mean, this is a crazy ass question. Whatever. I'm going to throw it out there because I was just thinking about it as you're talking. Has Justin Herbert hit his ceiling? We're 4 years into his career, and I get it. I mean, that's a bonehead question, and I understand it. But the guy in 2021 threw for 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. Like, is he ever going to eclipse that again?
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good season. I think in a scheme that like Ben Johnson runs, where he consistently schemes people open, which I think Justin Herbert's in a good scheme right now with Kellen. Excuse me.
And that's what I mean. Like, they brought Kellen Moore in to make Herbert better, and we're still, I mean, it's still that kind of mediocre. They're losing to bad teams. Everyone's like, there's just things are happening where it's still not coming together.
Yeah, but also, do you think Bryce Young's ceiling is 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns?
I can't say that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't either, but I think that Justin Herbert has at least put it on record, that he can.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback, and I think Bryce Young will be as well. But we've seen it with our own eyes throughout a whole season that Justin Herbert can throw for 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. So, as a person wanting to accept a job where I know I can succeed in, without a doubt, because he's done it in the past, I don't know. Maybe the Chargers are a little bit more enticing. They've got a better offensive line, pieces on defense as well. I think that's probably going to be the hottest job for any candidate.
I definitely think they're more. I mean, the pieces they got. I mean, and you just mentioned that defensively they got. I mean, they got some damn good pieces, really across the board. So yeah, it's just I was just curious, just something to ponder about. But I'm still trying to go back here. Hold on. So you have Carolina, Las Vegas, LA, Washington, maybe New England, Sounds like, though, if New England gets rid of Bill Belichick, I think that's Gerard Mayo's job, like, to lose. I don't see them going outside.
Yeah.
Maybe New Orleans, maybe Tampa Bay. I mean, there's a lot of maybes in there. I mean, and so we shall see, because it sounded like I thought I saw a report the other day, maybe by Florio, which I take whatever he says with a grain of salt, but I think it was like there could be 7 to 10 openings again this year of coaches, which is ridiculous. But anyway, let's leave it at that. Let's go to the game this upcoming weekend. Carolina again playing a divisional foe in the Saints. What are you worried about? It looks like maybe Jameis is going to be starting for them.
Yeah, I think I worry more about a Saints team with Jameis at the quarterback position than I do with Derek Carr at the quarterback position, because Jameis can, he might make a mistake here and there, but he's got a better arm than Derek Carr does. And the Panthers have, I think, historically played Jameis pretty well.
Yes, they have.
But this is a different year for Carolina, so I worry about Alvin Kamara, who's been playing really well. The Saints defense has been playing really well. It's going to be a hard game for Carolina to win, I think. But if the defense can force a couple turnovers, which the defense has struggled to do all year, force turnovers.
That one last week.
Yeah, they had one last week, but then went 5-6 games without one. So
I know.
I think they're bottom of the league in turnovers, total turnovers. But I think if they can force a couple turnovers and get the offense in good, which is sad, you got to rely on your defense to put your offense in a good situation, or the defense to score. But I think that if they can do that, then they might have a chance. But the Saints are just a better team right now, a better coach team, better, just a well-rounded team than the Carolina Panthers. So it's going to be tough. I think ultimately it's going to be another loss for the Carolina Panthers, but we'll see. Maybe this is the game that they bounce back and start getting some positive momentum. Who knows? But I'm not confident in it.
Yeah, I'm worried about Kamara. I have him in fantasy, and he's been a tank as of late, and that scares the hell out of me.
Olave as well.
Olave, and then you got defensively, Carolina always struggles against the Saints defense, and that just worries me, and they're going to pin their ears back. And yeah, I don't have much faith really the rest of the year. To be totally honest with you, I just want to see improvement and the offense just be consistent. But yeah, I think it's going to be a long day on Sunday. I guess I'm going to go first this time for prediction. I'm going to go 28. I'm going to stick to this 17. I don't think it can score much beyond 17 at this point. They had 18 on Sunday, obviously. But yeah, I'll go 28-17 Saints.
Yeah, I don't see the Saints getting 28. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll go 21-10. The Saints win. I think the Panthers are going to struggle to put up points versus the Saints defense that's playing really well. So I think 21-10 is where I'll set it at.
All right, well, we will leave it at that. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the Panthers on Tap podcast. You can catch our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Go give us a follow on Twitter at Panthers on Tap for all your analysis and breaking news. And as always,